All right, guys, welcome back to our Survivor Indianapolis season 3 coverage. This is like a last minute addition to the videos that we put out on the season. We just wanted to kind of debrief and talk through our thoughts on this season as a whole. We're going to be doing an episode previewing season 4 that actually will have already been out by the time this comes out. It's going to come out like in May, so you already have seen that. But we're recording the same night, so we thought we should just do a little bit of both. So all we're going to do really is kind of talk through some of our favorite moments, some highlights, some pros and cons of the season overall, some things that we learned maybe, or things we just loved that we did that was new for this season, and then maybe we could carry over for season 4. So I'll start off with the idea that I thought that it was great that we had a lot of new players. We only had, I think, 4 of the 14 that had played before, if I remember right. It could be a little bit off, but we had them draft the tribes, so we had 2 and 2. So yeah, out of the 14, 4 new players, and overall, I like most of the people that were new really knocked it out of the park. So any so let's do this then. Who out of the new 10 new players? So let me break that down. The 10 new players were Logan, Ashley, Brooklyn, Rebecca, Annie, Ariel, Sam, Brandon, Sarah, Ben, Colin, and Eric. Some people that hit it out of the park for you that were newer players. John, why don't you start us off? Oh, John's muted. So Alex, go ahead and start us off.
Probably going to steal John's thunder, but I was just going to say Eric.
I mean, Eric's the obvious one, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he just outplayed everybody in that game. And I think he was kind of caught in between 2 different alliances, like trying to whatever. And he just kind of manipulated the whole game. I thought he was really good. Other than that, I think Rebecca actually played a really good game. I thought she was kind of like the quiet one. I'm probably still John's under there again too, but I thought those 2 were probably like the most impressive because Rebecca got really far for kind of not being like dominant, but just kind of knowing when to be smart about how to play. So
yeah. Brooke, what about you?
I was going to say the exact same thing. I was going to say Eric for obvious reasons, and then I was going to talk about Rebecca because she had no connections going into it or throughout the entire day. The only connection she really had was Hunter. And Hunter was just kind of like, you know what, vote me out because you're going to do better than I am in the long run.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. John, you going to just echo the 2 of them? You're still muted. Something is just not working with your mic. Something's not working with the mic. So I'll come back to you. I'll go ahead. I'll be the different one. Obviously, those 2 are great answers. I will say that in terms of like TV, like how good they were to watch play and how good they were on the YouTube videos, both Ashley and Ariel really gave me lots of laughs.
Yes, fair.
And then sorry, Ashley and Annie. Ariel too, but Ashley and Annie was who I was really thinking of. And I was going to go on to then say Ariel also I thought played really well. Just because we'll talk about it if she watches this. It's not personal, but there's one thing that I will say later on that I thought was a pretty obvious mistake that I think she could learn from, that because of the fact that I don't think she knows the game really, she maybe didn't notice, and maybe she would learn from it now. But I was pretty sure she didn't know the game at all. And for someone that was completely coming out from not knowing the game, has issues with asthma, did a pretty dang good job and won like 2 challenges, I think, 2 individual challenges, and did pretty good on the tribal challenges too. So I think that she just was almost like rose to the top of the threat charts a little too quickly, and then everyone was like, "Oh man, she's winning everything. We need to get her out." So yeah, I'd add her to the list. John, try it again. See if you're
Hello?
Here with it. There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm
go
back.
Go ahead and give your thoughts before I.
So the old plug in, unplug trick worked.
Hey.
We definitely should have tested this before we started. Yeah. So obviously, MVP in my heart would have to be Rebecca. So In recent episodes of the Shady Buffalo podcast, we had hoped that she would say yes, that are now out. So she did say yes, guys. So yeah. But yeah, so fun fact, Rebecca gave me a lot of flack for not picking her as a heavy hitter in the pre-show.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in season 4.
She said, I can't believe you did that. Like, I don't know if I should be your girlfriend anymore.
That would be hilarious.
Oh, that's great.
The best breakup story. But it didn't happen, so that's good.
Love you, babe.
I'll also say, Brandon and Ben, like I said in the preseason, Brandon's either gonna like just like crash and burn immediately, or he'll control the game. And he controlled the game. The problem was people saw it too much, and at some point decided like that's enough. He's controlled the game for like 3/4 of the game. We have to get him out. And Ben,
did he control the game, or did Eric let him control the game?
I mean, sure, Eric let him, but like he was the one that was getting all the credit for it. So if Eric had never voted him off, Brandon, other than the fact that people may have been just like mad at him, like other than the fact that Brandon, if Brandon had gotten to the end with Eric at his side, Eric probably still wins because people were probably just too mad at Brandon. And I'm sure Brandon's watching this, and I'm just like, I'm telling you, man, like they probably wouldn't. You would have had to go to the end with Ben and Sarah, Ben and I don't even know, because people were just like upset, and that's just the way that it went.
Yeah.
But I think that Eric, you can say Eric led him, but like they had the majority alliance, and at some point Eric couldn't control it. Early on, he thought he was in control, and I think he lost control, and he realized it. And then when Hunter and Rebecca came back into the game, that was his opportunity to take back control, and he did that. But like if it had been someone who wasn't as willing to work with Eric that came back into the game, then who knows. But and then Ben like was an obvious target, winning bunches of challenges, and still it took a rock draw to get him out. So I would give him credit as a new player. Let's go ahead and move into another thing that I thought was a really important thing, was that we had a lot of investment from the cast. I think that like it ended up being like 11 hours or so. It was insane. It was ridiculous. And everyone knows it was ridiculous, and we're working hard not to repeat that. But like outside of Logan and Ashley, who rightly so were not invested after they were voted off back to back, 1 and 2.
Sequentially 1 and 2,
like I mean, I don't at all fault them for not being invested when they were basically
done it. I wanted to do it, and I was helping.
So but other than that, I mean, there were people that people that were kind of getting tired at the end. I know Sarah was pretty much done when she got voted off. I know Hunter was pretty much done when she got voted off. But like the investment overall, that was really strong.
Yeah.
And then so I think that one of the last big positives to me was the fact that we had lots of really big moments. Our first season, we had some smaller like idle plays, and we had some fun stuff that happened, but nothing that was like, wow, that's just huge. Season 2, we really like, I'm trying to think back to season 2, other than the fact that we had the tie vote at the end, and honestly wasn't, and Michael's idle play to save you, Brooke. Those were the 2 big moments of the game. But really, I don't think any of those, except for maybe the tie vote, because it's just so rare to have the tie vote at the final 3. I don't think anything topped 3 different things that happened in this season. I don't know. What do you guys? I want you guys to say like one of your like top like big moments. Let's just go back around the horn. Alex, what do you think? What was a big moment for you last season?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember everything that happened because it's been about a year ago now.
But almost a year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like 10 months, 9 months.
I think one of the things that was most interesting to me was probably at the end when, after the interviews, I think Eric said he was going to keep him, Ben, and Colin into the final, and then Eric flipped his vote and voted for Ben to be out.
Yeah.
So Rebecca was able to stay in there. And that's what made the rock draw. And I think that was really huge, because at that point, I mean, I still think Eric would have won the game, but Ben was probably his biggest threat, because I think he realized that. So by him flipping his vote, I thought that made the ending of the game very interesting, especially because of the rock draw. And I think Eric was actually just enjoying watching the drama unfold.
He was loving it.
He was just creating chaos and was smirking behind the scenes the whole time. Every time we come do an exit interview, the smile on his face was pure enjoyment. So, I thought that probably was the one that stood out to me the most.
I would agree. That was probably my number 2. And for me, it was I do agree. I think Ben might disagree, but I do think Eric still wins. But that was by far his biggest competition. And it was like one last thing just to put on his resume of like, not only did I do these other things and I did it in a way that was likable. So you did it, you guys aren't bitter at me. He also, I think part of why he was more likable than Ben and Brandon is that he actively worked with both sides of the alliances. So like he actively worked with Hunter and Annie and Rebecca to the point where they were all willing to vote for them. I know Annie voted for Colin, but if Colin hadn't been there, she would have voted for Eric, I think.
Yeah.
So it's like having somebody that you felt like helped you get a couple rounds farther, even though they didn't want you to go to the end with them, it still like helps their feelings a little bit. Brooke, what's another moment that you thought was like a big deal in season season 3?
I mean, I can't think of any huge ones off the top of my head because it's been so long, but there were just so many blindsides.
Yeah. Tons of blindsides,
like,
a lot of
like so many last minute, like as people are going up to vote, flipping to the other side. Like if Ariel hadn't flipped on the second vote,
that's the one.
The whole game would have been different.
That's the one. So let's save that for a second. That's the one to me. John, do you have anything else to add before we move on to like I have one other one besides Ariel flipping, but Ariel flipping is the number one to me.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't have anything massive besides that.
I would say Brandon getting voted off changed the game from that point on. Eric decided because that when he decided to flip on Brandon, it also affected. He had help doing it from Hunter and from Colin, but that was a huge turning point and I think it was a part of why the jury was like on his side now because they wanted some drama to stir up the majority alliance. So with that, I think Ariel and that flip. And I don't know how much she even knows it because from a little bit later in the season, we see her talking about girls strong and wanting the girls to work together and all of these things, which I think I 100% she had no reason to lie about that. So like, I think she really wanted that. But I think she wanted it because she realized that the guys were basically kind of targeting the girls, but she realized it too late. And what started that whole avalanche was Ariel's flip, which is like super ironic. Is that so to like set the scene, I don't know exactly the numbers, but I can probably figure it out because it was 13 people and Ben had an extra vote. So what made it so crazy was not that Ariel flipped. That was interesting, I guess. But what made it crazy was that in order to get Ashley out, so I don't even know if Ashley and Logan are aware of this. So her getting voted off was super fluky, which makes me feel even more bad for the two of them because it took Ben having an extra vote that he found randomly out in the yard, that fire token that he uses an extra vote. So then it's 7-7 because he played an extra vote. It should be 6-7 because there's 13 players. So really, if he didn't have that, he goes home, which changes the whole game. So he plays it, tie vote. On the revote, Ashley and Ben can't vote. So now it should be 11 votes because Ben's 2 both are gone and Ashley's 1 is gone. So it should be 11 votes. So it should be 6-5 in favor of Ben going home. And then when Ariel flips, it makes it 5-6 the other way. So it was a like monumentally, like I think it changed the entire game. Like Eric could have maybe found a way to weasel his way into that side of the alliance because he had been kind of talking to both sides. But in terms of how far Brandon goes and Ben goes, and probably even some people like maybe even Eric, like they all probably go home much sooner. I mean, maybe even have a whole different winner. I don't even know, like, is this all snowballs to the point where it's almost not even impossible to predict what would have happened?
Do we have any video like interview with Ariel to like get her rationale on why she flipped? Because it feels like it was just like random, or like she did it because Sarah wanted her to or something.
She did it because she's too close to Sarah.
I also feel like they didn't have a grasp on the fact that Ben lost the extra vote as well, because all they would have to do is just hold the same. And I feel like Ariel may have not had a grasp on that.
I'm not sure any of them did, other than maybe.
That's true. That's very true.
I don't think they did because I don't remember even realizing that there was an extra vote cast.
Well, because he didn't. No one. I don't think anyone knew he
Yeah.
had it. No one was
Yeah.
like. He
Yeah.
wasn't like going out saying, "Hey, I have an extra vote." Like he wasn't advertising it. So
Yeah.
it made the numbers really weird. And it's at some point when it's like 7-7, it's just so many votes. Like how could you even think about the numbers? You're not tracking. You're not counting like, oh, it's 14. It's too many. Like, you're just saying, oh, it's
Yeah.
7-7. Not thinking about it probably much more than that.
Yeah.
So
I think
No
Sarah
one's doing
found that
trigonometry
too.
there at
I think
Tribal.
Sarah found it.
I think Sarah said she found that fire
And
token
gave it
and
to
gave
him?
it to Ben
Whoa,
at the very beginning in the first round.
that's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think she said that in the actual episode that you uploaded, if I'm
Oh,
not mistaken.
well, I need to watch. I haven't watched it yet.
So I
And
thought she
I've
said she
watched it
found
about
it.
15 times in the editing room, and I somehow still missed that. So
Yeah, I thought she said that. I could be
Okay.
wrong, but I'm pretty sure she said she gave it to Ben.
oh, okay. I'll have to. I mean, I am planning on watching it, but I just hadn't yet because I've already watched the clips for hours.
Yes.
So yeah, that was a huge vote, and like several things made it to where like it should not have happened for several different reasons, and it just kind of ended up happening. I don't even know if Ben knows how close he was to going home. I think he knew he needed the extra vote, but like I think if I remember right, in his confessional with the extra vote, he's like, "I'm good to go." Paying the extra vote, we're actually going home. He was super confident, and he may have been portraying confidence. Because I know there were times where he was definitely playing up like his confidence and how well he was playing. He was trying to be like that a character almost on the show, which I appreciated because it's more fun to watch that.
Thanks for
but
great TV.
It makes for better TV, yeah. So that's why it was some certain people that are like playing up, like being real dramatic about stuff. I'm like, yeah, there you go, like you get it. But yeah, that was a crazy a vote. So anything else on positives that anyone needs to get out there before we move on to a couple of negatives?
I loved how we had people get voted back in, not because it was just Rebecca, but
It was a neat,
I-
a neat mechanic.
yeah, that was a really cool mechanic. And then to see the person who the people that were in the game vote back in, which if you do that tactically, you vote the person you think is the weakest threat of the game, and then to see Rebecca go all the way to the top 3 and take Ben out in the rock trawl was super cool.
And then I think the next level strategy of that was that I don't think Eric was thinking the way that you're saying that people should be thinking. I think he wanted to get Hunter back in to work with Hunter.
Yeah.
Because I know that he had been working with Hunter a little bit on the side, and it just had never really worked out because he didn't want to get Brandon out at that point in time, and Hunter was gunning for people in his alliance. But he kept talking to her. There's video of like him talking to the girls and like wanting to do something, and he actually did cast a vote against his own alliance before Hunter was voted off the first time, I think, and it just didn't happen. And somehow no one thought anything of it. It was one of those weird type of councils where like there were votes all over the place. I think it may have been even when Hunter went home. There was one type of council where there was like 4 different people that got votes, and so no one realized that Eric had flipped, but he had. And yeah, it was really wild, and I didn't even know he had flipped until I went back and watched the tape, because I was like, no, I was standing at tribal council, and that's why I wasn't watching the votes being cast until I was editing. So that was definitely an interesting way to get people back into the game. And I think that Eric used it strategically to get somebody back into the game he thought he could work with. And it worked out for him because it helped him get Brandon out and change the game to get himself to the end. So negatives, the obvious one is like the time. And we're doing a lot to change that. I've kind of used the metaphor several times. It is a roller coaster. And like once you're on the ride, you just can't get off. So if it takes 10 hours, then it takes 10 hours. And so it is what it is. But we're doing a lot of things pre-season and planning and just different ideas of how we're thinking about things to fix that. So I don't think it's really worth discussing more than it was like an obvious problem. One obvious problem for me, and I don't that we've talked about before, it's pretty obvious, is that like having Logan and Ashley go out so soon, it gives them like no real reason to stay. It takes 2 people off the jury. It like takes 2 people out of contention for getting voted back in. It just kind of cuts some of the drama, and just like I just hate to see people have no incentive and no engagement in the game, and it happens sometimes for reasons that are just it just happens. But this one here, it felt like you probably could have gone for somebody else at one of those 2 votes, either Logan or Ashley. Like they said Logan was a threat, but he was terrible on the puzzle, and he even said like I was terrible at the puzzle. And he might have been a threat later, but he wasn't then. and then they voted off Ashley because she was too weak. But like really, if you watch the episode this week, it was more about the fact that her and Brandon were like debating on how to do the challenge, and he ended up being correct. And so then he was like, well, she was wrong about this strategy thing, so we should vote her off. When like I don't think that anyone really thought about the big picture of you're voting off a husband and wife pairing first and second before we get to like noon. and they probably could have voted off somebody else. Like, I don't know, anybody else.
If you want to talk about someone who put the most the most energy into that roped course, it was Ashley. Like she was
her or Ariel. Ariel was like about to die.
Yeah, but both of them were like on the verge of needing Stacy to resuscitate.
And I would say Ben also gave like everything on that challenge. He was like dying. I remember his interview after that was like he was gassed.
So I don't agree with Brandon though, because I don't think it would have mattered which way they would have done it first. If they would have gone the long way, then came back and kind of did it like the other tribe, because the tribes were just so imbalanced.
Can I just say, as someone who's done it the long way and worked their way back versus a team who did it, get the closest ones and work their way out.
Yeah, the girls crushed
faster to
the
go
girls
long.
crushed the guys on that. I mean, Alex did it too. But like the girls crushed the guys on that one. I think it's mental. The math is like the same, but I think it's a mental thing. Where
we missed one too. That was the thing when the guys did it. We dropped one, couldn't find it,
but it wasn't close. So like even if you did find it, I think the girls still would have won because it was like kind of a blowout. It was like one of the least close challenges except for the beanbag one.
But, I don't think in season 2 the guys even got to the puzzle.
And we don't need to talk about it.
Yeah, we were just starting. I think me and Noah were doing it. Noah was voted out. I forget who it was.
No, I think Noah got voted off after that challenge.
That's right, because the girls lost the first challenge.
Because Caleb, I thought Caleb
should have been voted out.
Yeah,
he was on that porch watching us do it.
He was sitting up there next to a fireplace.
Yeah,
while
it was cold out.
The rest of us were freezing our butts off, and the entire time I'm thinking, man, that's going to be such an easy vote to just take Caleb out. And then they just sacrifice Noah to the dogs.
Yeah.
So, then Caleb went on a huge run of wins after that. So, so I would say other things that I had an issue with, I'm trying to save one for last because I'm going to get Brooks' take on one thing at the end here. Yeah. It'll be obvious when we get there. But other than that, the pre-gaming, I've already had people this season 4, that have like asked questions about stuff, and I'm like, I can't tell you because I just like we can't handle the pre-gaming anymore.
That was too much. Yeah.
And I don't want like Ben or Brandon were the two top people that did it, and they're probably gonna watch this. So I'm not saying like you shouldn't have done it. It was my fault for starting a group message with all of them in it, and then not thinking like Brandon and Ben like Survivor a lot. They might go in and really like do a lot of pre-gaming. I just didn't. I don't know why, because in the past, most people that have played have not really been very engaged until the game started because they don't know the game that well, or they're just not sure what's going to happen. Like how it's when you get asked to play, I can see why you'd be like, really? How are you going to pull this off? Is this going to be like, what's this going to be like? Just like a kindergarten relay thing? Like, I can just see why people would not understand. But Ben and Brandon understood from the jump what was being asked of them, and so they went in. And so I can't really fault them for doing that. I can fault myself for letting them know the cast ahead of time. But it made it to where I do have to like address that, I think. Because Logan and Ashley were voted off mostly, first and second, mostly because of pre-gaming stuff, which is part of why I think that it felt so inevitable to them. And as part of why I think that, I haven't talked to Logan specifically about this, but it's part of why I would assume that he was a little bit upset because it felt like, why am I even here? Like I can't change their opinion of me because it's been happening for weeks before the game even started that they've all decided I'm a threat. And even if I fail the puzzle, and even if I do things that don't raise my threat level, they see me as a threat. So why am I even here? So that kind of stuff, too, that can't happen again.
Not having Jaden and Sunday because they were originally part of the cast.
Yeah. That was big.
Not having them, I think that took away 2 of their alliances, which would have made it a little bit more interesting in terms of
without Jaden and Sunday, they really only had Jacob. That they
and Jacob wasn't married to that alliance.
And Jacob wasn't. No.
Yeah. And
Jacob
he even didn't really have a big group either.
Ahead of time.
I think he talked to Hunter for a second. At least he acted like he might work with Hunter. I don't know. And there was some comment in one of the episodes that he talked about like wanting to work with Hunter. He thought, and maybe Brooklyn, but it was all like I think him and Brooklyn working together was more based on the fact that he worked with Chris last season.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like he was locked in on that. I would say kind of like going from pre-gaming, which was kind of a positive this season, but also kind of still a negative to me, is just generally speaking, and it's not anything I can do about it, but the strategy of the players sometimes just like drives me up a wall. And what I mean mostly is like part of it is we have all these people that don't know Survivor, the show, and that's totally fine. I'm never gonna have a season of all people that are like hardcore fans unless we do it like years from now and they've become fans from like me doing this. Like I mean that's possible. I mean that's possible theoretically years from now, but and so their strategy is kind of like more based in like the elementary aspects of the game from the early seasons. And so you see a lot of these guys versus girls dynamics. You see a lot of like, let's say strong. Oh, let's get both the weaker players out, and oh, let's like just have this alliance and go all the way to the end with it. And there are a lot of players that that do that, and we see Jacob Wright season 2 go all the way to the end and lose. Colin this year go all the way to the end and lose, and follow these strategies that like loyalty and let's follow this alliance and strong go to the end. And if you want to win, that's not going to work. Like that strategy works for one person, the person that won the season. Like that worked for Chris, and even Eric had to flip on people. Eric didn't play a loyal like game. He flipped on Brandon and Ben, and he won because you have to be at least a little bit deceived. You can do it in a nicer way, like Eric did it in a nicer way to some extent. And he almost didn't get Ben's vote because he flipped on Ben. So it's like you do have to backstab a little bit, and you have to be deceitful a little bit. And I think that maybe we'll see that happen. I think this next season we could see some fireworks. I'm interested.
I'm excited for
it's
it.
going to be messy.
I'm happy.
So
I would much rather have Messi than have like. I just don't want to have. Chris played it perfectly. Like great job, Chris. But that was kind of a boring season. It's just like, other than the fact that it was tied at the end with him. No, it's not your fault. It's like, it was just like the guys were so entrenched on like, we're not going to vote guys all the way to the end. And it was just like, okay, well, you're going to just do this. And it feels kind of inevitable. Yeah. So
you're going to walk it as far as you can go.
Yeah. It's just, that's why the next season I tried so hard to make the alliances not be locked in. And I changed the tribes so much was because of the fact that I wanted to make the alliances more fluid and just have people play more one round at a time and not be like us 5 or us 6 are going to go all the way to the end, because that only works for one person. And it's like, that should be pretty obvious that like, even if you think you're the one, 6 of you can't think you're the best person. Like someone has to realize who is getting the credit for what's happening. And it's not all of you, it's 1 or maybe 2 of you. So
I think one thing that's just, it's kind of hard to understand, one, in general, too, if you've never played before.
Yeah,
you can't.
It's natural.
It's hard to strategize in the amount of time that they have on that level, especially if you don't know it. Like for you, it's easy, and for the 3 of us, it's getting easier. But like, if you don't know anything about Survivor, like a lot of the people that are playing,
you're flying blind. It's really hard to
go in and be like, okay, but there's 6 of us and only half of us are making that final 3.
Yeah.
Where do we need to make a change?
And even a lot of times, even in the 3, 1 or 2 of you, or one of you probably is going to get 0 votes. So
yeah.
I think Colin could have flipped on Eric if he was smart.
He should have flipped on Eric.
Yeah, somebody should have flipped on Eric early.
Colin should have taken Ben and Sarah to the end, or Ben or Rebecca, one or the other.
Or Rebecca.
Both played such a charismatic game. No one even thought that, oh, he's backstabbing every single one of us.
Yeah. He used his charm and charisma to like,
he's the person we should go after.
For sure. So, and again, I'm not blaming the players. I'm not saying like, oh, you're so stupid. No, I'm really not. I'm just saying like, I'm trying to find creative ways that are not breaking the game to kind of push them to move beyond that, because it's very natural. Like it makes sense why they're thinking that way, because they're just getting into this kind of a game style. And maybe if we, in years down the line, if we're still doing this, we can have people that have played 3 or 4 times and it may be radically different, which will be fun. But I want to be aware of how many seasons we're having the exact same kind of strategy happening over and over, which is why the last thing I wanted to just talk about for maybe a couple minutes here before we wrap up is the gender issue. That's why I wanted to have Brooke talk about this for a minute. And I don't think it's this red flag, red alert, like it's a problem, but it's something that I am like watching. We've had 4 seasons technically, because the Zoom does count as one. And Cassie lost to Brandon on the Zoom season because people were bitter at her, even though he was much more manipulative and deceitful. They just didn't know it. Season 1, Kirsten won, but Kirsten won because Lincoln was self-admittedly did not care and was just doing whatever John wanted to do, and John had hurt people's feelings.
Not me. I hurt no one's feelings.
Sorry.
I am a golden child.
And that's the problem. That season right there shows you. But the thing is, we haven't gotten past that dynamic of like John. I didn't even catch that. The fact that John Shadon was playing where I would play, and everyone else is playing like basic entry level Survivor, which is, again, it's normal because that's where they were in terms of their fandom, and John was not there. So he was playing so far above that people were taking it very personally, and he didn't realize it. He would come to me when he was going to vote people out and say every time, David, this is the one, I'm getting voted off this round. And he made it all the way to the end because he just kept thinking like the way that they should be thinking is to vote me out, instead of thinking, how are they actually thinking? And so my point, I guess, is Kirsten won and she earned it. She was like, the friendly option. She did strategize and she made alliances and did certain things to make sure she was there at the end. But it was a lot less active in terms of like winning a lot of challenges and doing these things to like be the front runner on an alliance, unlike Chris and Eric. And so we've had 2 winners in a row now that played moderately similarly in terms of being one of the top people in an alliance. So Eric had to flip on Ben and Brandon to become the top person in the alliance. But even if he had gone to the end with Brandon, I think he still wins. Yeah. And so it's like, and Chris just rode his alliance all the way to the end. So I'm trying to find ways to not have challenges, especially, be obviously slanted for men and for women. And one of the things I'm going to start doing a little bit more often is on individual challenges, not too close to the end, but in the beginning of the merge, have a male winner and a female winner. We did that, I think, twice this season, and it still didn't help, partially because it was maybe a little bit too late, because the merge, even by then, it was like, I think by the merge,
it was heavily lopsided.
Yeah, but the merge, you had Hunter, because I think that Rebecca was gone by the merge, right? So you had Hunter made the merge, right? Maybe she didn't actually, because it was. I know Ariel and Sarah did. What?
I think you have that flipped. I thought Rebecca made it to the merge and Hunter didn't.
Rebecca was 4th voted out, and Hunter was 6th. I'm looking at it right here. So I think Hunter maybe made the merge, or she was close. But worst case scenario, it was Ariel, Sarah, and Annie, and then maybe Hunter made the merge. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure Annie did though. So like it was Annie did. I think it was 3 to 3. I think it was 3 to 5. So they already had the advantage. The guys did, and that's not a huge advantage. But when you're already targeting the girls, it's like, okay, well, so, and I don't mind that being a strategy and inherently, but when it's happened 2 seasons in a row now, I'm starting to think like, if it happens again, I don't know what I need to do to avoid that. So
I do think that this next season will be a little bit different just because of the age dynamic that will be in play. I'm hoping that will be the case.
Yeah.
I could definitely see with some of our older female players, making some really strong alliances with the younger groups. And these one thing that we're going to see in this next season that we're not seeing now is long-term marriages. Like
in the game,
husbands and wives that
of like 15, 20.
Like they can do that think thing, and like they know what each other's thinking with their eyes and the whatnot. So
that could change things.
Yeah, that could definitely change things.
I did say that I wanted to hear Brooke's thoughts, and I talked for like 5 minutes. I'm sorry. No, I talked for longer than you did. So Brooke, what do you think about this
during
overall?
Women's History Month? How dare you?
That's a coincidence.
I think the issue with not having very many female winners in this Indiana Survivor boils down to the way that the girls have to play at the same level as the guys are, and when they do,
They're seen as a threat.
it makes people angrier because girls aren't supposed to play like that. They're not supposed to
Yeah.
be strategic and backstab. Like,
It is gender roles.
I
I mean, in the real
personally-
shows, that happens in the
I
real show
have
too.
people who still won't speak to me because I stabbed them in the back
Yeah.
while playing Survivor.
Yeah. That's why
But
Cassie
I
got
was
seen as a
playing
threat.
good game.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cassie was the same
And
way.
on the online
Me and
version, that's
Cassie
why
were playing
people were mad
hard.
at Cassie. On the online version, people were mad at Cassie and they weren't mad at Brandon. It was like,
Yeah, exactly.
okay.
And that's what it boils down to. I think we just need to make sure everyone can look past.
Yeah,
It sounds stupid to say it, but gender
it is
roles
gender
of
roles.
like girls can't play that way. They
Yeah.
can't play mean.
Yeah,
Well, no, but we have to in order to get as far as the boys do in this game.
Yeah.
That's just how you win this game.
yeah.
Well, and the thing is, like in even an actual in like real world Survivor, they
Yeah.
what's the ratio? It's like
It's very skewed.
7-3 if men find hidden immunity
Oh.
idols over women
Yeah.
because
way high.
because
yeah.
women are supposed, like, the women take
The
care of the
stereo-
camp.
The
Yeah,
stereotypes,
Yeah.
like when a woman
Yeah.
leaves the camp, people like kind of freak out because they're
Yeah.
like, where are they
Yeah.
going? But a guy leaves
Well,
the camp and they're like, oh, he's getting firewood, oh, he's doing this, oh, he's doing that. So
I have said this since season 2, but even if I had made it to the final 3, and I really think I would have if I hadn't gotten idled out, thank
Yeah.
you, Alex,
You're welcome.
I wouldn't have won
you're
No.
welcome.
because every single girl that played besides Cassie and Kirsten was
we're
mad at me,
Yeah,
even though I played a good game.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That comes also with people a lot of the players
knowing
who've
the
gotten-
game.
not knowing the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And the
think
fact that-
maybe if you have eventually when you have like recurring players that have seen it more
yeah,
and you get like an all-star game, whatever, I think that could actually be really fun.
yeah,
Because I know when I
Yeah.
was playing, they didn't want me to get very far because they thought that I would flip with the girls because I knew a lot of the girls grew up with them,
Yeah.
had connections. And it didn't work out that way really. But I
And
mean,
you
if
were
there's-
out with them for hours.
yeah. That's true.
yeah,
And I think that
that's
like
the thing.
I think that like one other part of it is just the people we're pulling from, just generally speaking, and that's kind of a stereotype. But it's so far in my experience, it's been a lot harder to get women to commit to playing than to get men to commit
Yeah.
to playing. And so part of that is like, you know, part of that is just like, given that most of the people we are taking from mostly are from our church and our friend group and family. It's like we're limiting the types of men and the types of women that we can pull from, and so that also adds to it. So it's not necessarily to me like a real red flag issue, but it is something that I am definitely watching, and I wouldn't even say it'll be a problem if a woman doesn't win this season, but I just don't want to see it be like a landslide, men all the way to the end again. So
I want a woman to win this season
I
more
would
than
love it.
anything in the
I would
world.
love it.
Prediction:
I
a
would
woman will
love
win
it.
this season.
Let's do it.
Oh, I think a woman will win
Yeah,
because look at the women who are playing. Yeah, if
Yeah.
the women can work together, the women that are playing this season, I think they're diverse enough in their abilities that they could pull it out. I could see 3 women going to the final 3
there's definitely a lot of
if they,
talent
if
there.
they could do it.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent there, and I don't know. We'll see. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit, actually. And what's funny is we're talking about this backwards. The episode for season 4 is going to be coming out like April 1st or 2nd, and this is going to be coming out at the end of season 3 videos, which won't be, I think, until May. So it's kind of flip flopped, but that's fine. It doesn't really matter to me. So yeah, that's my last issue or just the thing to watch is just the gender dynamic. And you know, again, if a woman wins, I'd be happy with that. Just to kind of help make me realize that okay, it's possible for that to happen. Because that's the thing, is it is a problem if it feels impossible, right? And then what's the point of having women out there at all? We just have all the guys go and play, like, which would be, to me, would be boring. So it's like if it feels impossible, that's definitely a problem, and it's not there yet, but it is to the point where I'm like, it definitely seems like it's more difficult though, which is not necessarily a good thing. So, any other negatives or problems or just things you thought that were something to bring up before we head out of here?
I was gonna say I know there were some complaints. We talked about this off air about the changing of the tribes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
One thing I think I might have done different with that whole thing is instead of letting everybody vote, just make the team that lost vote, because
Yeah.
I think that would have been interesting to see with the alliances being already broken up, with that not being able to vote with your alliance still, even though you
Yeah,
had
I
both
think that
tribes
might have
voting.
actually broken the alliances up for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. Part of it was I combined two ideas that were both good and made a bad idea.
Perfect storm. Perfect storm.
So the good idea was alliances have been so entrenched last season. Let's just change tribes every single time, cause chaos. You can't rely on alliances. You have to rely on your own like ability and your own strategy and your own willingness to be flexible. So that's a good idea, right? The other good idea is, what if everyone went to tribal council every time? Then everyone has a reason to be invested. You're in the strategy. You're invested every single round. Every round matters. You're not sitting around on the porch waiting for the next round to start. You're invested in strategy now. Good idea. Together they were bad because we had, for one, it took forever because we did all these confessionals and we had all these the voting confessionals and the confessionals after the challenge. And then if everyone goes to tribal council, the majority alliance can still just pick off who they want out of the other tribe, because there's almost never going to be a situation where the entire majority alliance is all on the losing tribe. So there's always going to be somebody. So it actually didn't break the alliances up, and I just didn't see that coming. And I guess I probably should have. I don't know, but I definitely wouldn't do that again. I would do one or the other, possibly again, or maybe do like not every round do a swap, but just do more swaps. Like one or the other. Like combined, they were terrible. I thought it was like a bad idea together. So if you didn't like it, I'm sorry, but like I don't think that caused anyone to lose the game.
No.
Like I know,
Yeah.
like Jacob, if you were watching this, I know that he didn't like that, but like he won 4 challenges in a row, and then the first challenge he lost, he was voted off. To me,
Yeah.
that isn't because of the tribe swap. It's because you were
He's
a
a challenge
huge threat,
beast.
and they voted you off the first chance they
Yeah.
could. He couldn't blend in and not be a threat, which like I don't know, it's just tough. He needed to be in an alliance
Which he
that
was a threat from the jump because
Yeah.
we all said he was going to do well.
yeah. Well, I don't think I
Or a lot of us
Yeah,
said
He was
he
in my
would
top
do
four of you
three.
well.
guys did. 4 of you guys did. Me and Brooke did not. I'm looking at that right now. Me and Brooke did not pick him to do well, but like Chris, Christian, Alex, and John all had. No. John did not. Chris, Alex, and Christian did though. So that's a whole different thing. But I think we can go ahead and get out of here. Any other negatives, issues? Okay. The pause and silence lets me know that we're done. So before we head out of here, thank you all for watching. And thank you guys here for helping me not only just kind of sum up what happened in the season and things we liked and didn't like, maybe. And Eric, congratulations, dude. Well played. So season 3, that's a wrap. Season 4 videos coming up hopefully pretty soon. Maybe June. I don't know. We'll see. All right. See ya.